create a revenue stream by helping people. So, okay, I'm saying the meeting. Okay, got it. Redirected. Okay, just making sure we're getting up and live, and we are up live on YouTube, which is excellent. Just let me just mute that so I don't have to hear myself in duplicates. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. If you can, do me a favor, just give me a quick nudge, a yes, in the chat. That would be awesome. Just make sure you guys can hear me okay. And if you can, yes, awesome. Thank you very much, Stuart. Thank you very much, Madison. Thank you very much, guys. Super cool to see you guys. It should be in for a really interesting session. So I'm just going to share my screen for the webinar so you guys are all ready to rock and roll. Unfortunately, technology is evading me a little bit today. So what normally works extremely quickly and extremely well seems to be operating at a bit of a slower pace today. So, okay, perfect. Hopefully you can see that, and then it's all up and running. Okay, great. So let me first of all open with saying thank you very much, each and every single one of you guys, for joining me this evening. It should be a really exciting, very, very interesting session. And essentially, we're talking a little bit about sales today. And sales is one of those subjects that a lot of people tend to have almost an allergic reaction to, because they worry about, feeling like they're manipulating or coercing or begging or whatever other sort of terminology, or feel like, if they're asking for something to be able to help somebody make money, they feel like it's an icky conversation because it's all around money. So there's a lot of very interesting psychology that comes into the whole sales sphere. Now, what I like to do and how I find the easiest way to be able to operate this is, when you think of sales, hang on, let me just, so I'm going to do the external phone. Hopefully you guys can hear me better. So when I think of sales, what I do is actually think in terms of how I'm actually assisting somebody to move from one place to another, how I'm actually helping a person rather than hindering a person. So that for me is essentially the basic premise of sales, is you're there trying to help people. And it's really interesting because it's a subject that comes up a lot. And anytime you talk about sales with a client, they're typically, I don't like to sell. It makes me feel uncomfortable. I feel like I'm coercing. You've got all of this internal dialogue, this noise. The interesting thing is, people love to be sold to. Now, I know many of you guys, as soon as I say that, you're going to be going, oh man, I've had the guy trying to telesales me. I've had, somebody trying to sell me double glazed windows or whatever else. And ironically, the first place the human brain tends to go to when you talk about sales is the negative, the bad side of the sale. Ironically, if ever you want to buy a new car, or if ever you want to buy a new pair of trainers or a new bag or a new laptop or a new computer, whatever it is that you're looking to buy, if you're going to that shop and somebody is in there, okay, a prime example is Apple, right? So they've got the Genius Bar, the geniuses. People don't seem to understand that they are there as salespeople. Their job is to sell you to buy stuff. But the reason they don't realize it is because you go into the Apple shop with the intention of buying something. And their job is then to get you to buy that item and potentially buy other items. That is the very simple reality of what it is. And the reason people don't tend to notice is because they're there and they want to be sold to, because they're there to go and buy an item. So for me, the premise of sales is not about trying to sell something to somebody they don't really want. You wait for somebody that you speak to that you know is interested in what you have to offer, and then you offer them that, and you show how you can help them in acquiring whatever it is they're looking for. And by helping them acquire what it is they're looking for, they thoroughly enjoy the process, and they enjoy being sold to, because you are assisting them in getting the outward result that they're looking to do. Now, if they're looking for one thing and you're trying to sell them something else, they're not going to enjoy the process. They're going to feel like they're being sold to. If they like one thing and you're offering them that one thing and you're assisting them in doing better with that one thing, they're going to love working with you, because they go, oh, this person really helped me. They really assisted me in getting what I want. The reality is, it's still sales. No matter how you dress it up, no matter how you think about it, no matter what terminology you want to use in your head, it is still sales, right? People love to be sold to, providing it is something they are looking to achieve. Now, for me, I tend to focus a little bit more on the real estate, on the property side, because people like to make money. I don't care how you frame it, how you think about it, what the logic is in your brain in terms of how this all works. The reality is, people love to make money. My job is to help them make more money. So if I were to say to you in this example, so as a prime example, if I say to you, hey, would you like me to help you make more money? You can't help but to go, okay, yes, sure, I'm listening. Tell me more. Because everybody desires to make more money. I don't care how much money you've got in the bank. Everybody would like to make more money. It's just a matter of fact as to how it is. So when I'm then offering you something that I already know that you want, you don't feel like you're being sold to. You go, okay, show me. How can you help me make more money? So it becomes a different psychology. So rather than thinking of sales as sales, think of it as helping somebody, because that is essentially what you're doing. You're facilitating somebody moving from a place that they are to a place that they want to be, and being very happy with that journey because you've assisted them as opposed to forcing them. Okay, so it's a really interesting way in which you can rethink or reprogram that logic. I literally sat with a client today having exactly this conversation. And she was saying, she doesn't feel comfortable. The sales thing feels a bit weird. She's worried that she's trying to manipulate them. And it's all the usual sort of psychology and the usual language around it. But if you think of it much more in terms of how you can assist somebody to go from where they are to go to where they want to go, you're helping them. It's no different to a taxi driver. You're simply taking them from point A to point B, and you are facilitating that journey for them. That's all you're doing. You are a service provider. That is sales. Okay. So in nuts and bolts, what sales is, it's taking people from a position of wanting to a position of having. That is the sheer psychology of it. You're taking them from want to have. And there's a whole plethora of thinking behind how sales works, how the psychology of sales works. And that's kind of what I want to go through today with you guys, is start to show you, one, what you need or what a person needs to hear for them to want to buy from you. That is priority number one. Number two, a process you can take them through so you can get them both emotionally and logically bought in. And I'll explain a lot around that shortly. And number three, basically breaking down in a step-by-step process exactly how sales work, exactly how their process works, step by step. Okay, it'd be really, really interesting. So make sure you stay tuned. So one of the things that comes up a lot is people tend to get very misguided or confused between what the difference between sales and marketing is. And for me, it's really quite simple. So if I use an analogy of dating as a prime example, okay, marketing is getting dressed up and looking beautiful, okay? Because what you're doing is you're making somebody pay attention to you. They're curious, they're attracted, they want to know more, okay? So just as a prime example, or, you might list something at a 20% discount or whatever. So that's marketing. That's getting somebody curious and engaged with your product or engaged with your offer or engaged with you or whatever it is you're selling. Sales is the transaction where you take them from curious to paying, okay? So it's the physical transaction where they go from, I want to know more, to them giving you money. That is it. That is the difference between sales and marketing. So if ever you want to know how to get good at marketing, there's four things that comes with, I'm giving you away all the juicy secrets right now. So if you haven't already, make sure you have a pen and a pad, or you need to just pause this video, go grab a pen and a pad, because some of the stuff I'm about to give you is extremely valuable. So make sure you're making some notes. Okay. So in every sale, there is four elements of every conversation. There's the what, the why, the how, and the what if. Okay, I got taught to this by my old business coach who taught us a bunch of sales, an unbelievable sales trainer, a guy called Kane Minkus, a wonderful human being, him and his wife, Alessia. So the what is basically, what are they getting? What is it that they're getting? They're buying a car, or they're buying a house, or whatever it is that is the product, okay? The why is, what do they get from that product? So they're buying a Ferrari. They're not buying a Ferrari so they can go, I've got a Ferrari. They're buying a Ferrari so they can feel good about themselves, chest pumped out, so they can, show off to their friends, so they can impress, whatever it is, whatever the logic is, they can feel like $1 million driving down the road, whatever. So it's the emotional side of that. So the what is the tangible, the why is the emotional side. The what if, okay, so the what if is, what if they don't do that? So what if they don't buy the car that day? So if they don't buy the car that day, they're probably going to be, every time they drive past the car, going, I wish I bought that car. My friends would be so impressed. Or what, it's the psychology behind how they would feel because they never managed to buy that. And then the how is how they're actually going to do it, or how you're going to deliver your service. So as an example, if I talk to you about our investment process, what I'll tend to do as part of the marketing is I'll talk to people about how they can own property. Okay, so that's the what. So they can lead a life where they have financial security, go on holiday more, spend time more with family, retire early, whatever the item is that I'm trying to give them, to save them having to. So now we're into the what if, to save them having to work for the next 20 years in a job that they hate, dealing with a boss who's a dick, or whatever the term is. So that's the what if. Okay, so that they feel depressed or low, or feel like they've just wasted a period of their time, whatever the terminology is. And I won't tell them the how. Okay, you need to keep the how a secret as part of marketing. So you tell them the how, then they're going, oh, well, that's fine, I can do that anywhere else. Okay, and the how would be something along the lines of, well, we'll source you property. And they go, oh, okay, well, I can source properties anywhere else now, it's less interesting. But if you keep them curious, keep them on the hook, okay? So we call that the underwear. So that's the underwear. So when you get with a new partner, and you're getting ready for your, moment of passion, and they're left with just underwear on, that is about as sexy as it gets, because your brain is busy trying to figure out what's under there, how it looks, and you're going through all that attractive piece. So that's what you're doing when it comes to marketing, is you're giving them almost everything, but you're just keeping enough back that they want more. Okay, that is essentially how the marketing phrase works. And I appreciate I've sexualized that, but you can use any sort of terminology you want. It's just a useful terminology because I think it's very effective. With sales, what you're doing is you are moving from that pre-passion into the passion stage. This is very simply how it works. So you are closing the deal or opening the deal, or however you want to phrase it, whatever terminology works for you, but you are moving them from point of curious through to point of transaction. Okay, that is the nuts and bolts of sales and marketing, which for me is really interesting, right? And by the way, as with any one of these webinars, guys, if you have any questions throughout, do just drop it in the chat. I am keeping an eye on the chat, or stick it in the Q&A or whatever else. And I'm more than happy to sort of have a bit more of an open dialogue. It makes it much easier because I tend to work fast. I know a lot of you guys attended our event on Monday. So we run the events obviously live last Monday of every month in London. And for those of you that caught up to the event, you will know that I work very fast. I go through a lot of information very quickly. So if you want me to slow down at any point or go through anything again at any point or anything like that, do let me know. I'm more than happy to do that. Okay. Next, when it comes to selling, okay, the human brain operates in a couple of different ways. So you have the logical part of your brain and the emotional part of your brain. So the logical part of your brain is what we call the stick effect, and the emotional part is the buy effect. So as an example, as a man, you don't, or as a woman actually as well, man or woman. So as a person, you don't tend to buy a flash car or a nice house or a lovely watch or a really fancy bag or shoes. You don't tend to buy these things because you go, well, logically that makes perfect sense. You tend to buy them based on emotion, based on how it makes you feel, or based on how you think you're going to feel. It's all emotionally driven to create that transaction. Now, interestingly enough, for a lot of you guys on here, let me just ask the question. Out of interest, who's bought something, you've left the shop, you've got home, or the next day you've woken up and you've gone, I wish I'd never done that. Wish I hadn't bought that. Oh, that wasn't a good idea to buy it. Out of interest, how many of you guys have done that ever? And this is called buyer's remorse. This is a very, very common thing that happens, particularly when people spend money on high ticket items, or they go out to a really fancy dinner and they spend a lot more money than they should have, or they buy a really expensive, whatever it is. Okay, so there's a few of you guys. Okay, and this happens a lot. Now, the reason this happens is for one very simple reason. It made emotional sense, but it didn't make logical sense. Okay, it made emotional sense, didn't make logical sense. So we used to run a lot of mentorship, training, coaching, live events, and we take people from live events where they come into a 2-hour preview, so a 2-hour seminar that was completely free. We talk to them a little bit about property, and we essentially do our marketing piece, where we're getting them all excited about what we have to offer, but we're not giving them any of the how. We're giving them the what, the why, the what if, but we're not giving them any of the how. Okay, we're telling them that we're telling them the how, but we're not giving them any of the how. So how we're going to do this is we're going to teach you. Okay, which basically means I'm not telling you how, but I'm going to tell you how I'm going to tell you how. Okay, so it's a bit of a psychological game here. So at that point, people would sign up at the 2-hour event and they would pay us money so that they could attend a 3-day event. And that money basically went towards the hotel costs and the staffing costs for the 3-day event and covered some of the marketing costs. Honestly, not even close to half of it, but it is what it is. It was a loss leader. And you'd have these people in the 3-day seminar, okay, and it'd be great. They'd be really excited. They'd be in for a good time. And they know as part of that purchase that emotionally they made the decision because I'm talking to them about what their life could look like. And if they don't do it, the remorse they will feel for not having done it. Okay. But what I'm also adding is the logic as to what they're going to get from the event, which makes it make sense for them to do it. Now, what this does is this increases the show rate at the event and it hugely reduces the cancellation rate. And then what we do at those 3-hour seminars is we essentially work with people, we train them, we coach them, we give them a ton of information on what they need to do and how they need to do it. But we'd hold back some of the how. Because the reality is I knew as a fact that if I try to give everyone what they needed in that 3-day event, 99% of those people would go out and they would do absolutely nothing with the knowledge. Because they go, oh, I've got enough knowledge, but then they go out to the real world and they go, oh, actually, I don't have enough knowledge. But by this point, they're well out of the event frame and they don't have the support to be able to make the next steps. So my job was to make sure that they knew they had a lot of information, but realized they didn't know enough to go out there and actually put it into action. And then what I would do is I would offer them a mentorship or a coaching or a training so that we could support them throughout that entire journey to ensure they bought stuff, to be there to support them when they were doing the transaction, to assist them with the knowledge gaps that they didn't have, to essentially help them and assist them in building that portfolio. Now, what we did find is when we just did a very heavy emotional sales, we got them all pumped, got them all hyped, got them excited, got them, visualizing their future, understanding what life would look like and doing all of these sort of things, but we didn't give them the fundamental logic on how we were actually going to do that, what support they would get, all of these sort of bits and pieces. If we left any of that stuff out, our cancellation rate was through the roof. But if we made a point of making sure they had the emotional to close the deal, to get them to buy, but we also had the logical to engage them, show them what we were going to do, show them how we were going to support them, show them what value they were going to get as part of the process, our cancellation rate was next to nothing. Okay. And this was a really, really big and interesting learning. Now, what you need to do as part of your entire sales process, so anything you're going to do when you try and help people, is you need to show them that emotionally, how you're going to help them emotionally. And you also need to show them logically how that works step by step. So the emotion is for them to take the quick action and the logic is to get them to stick. So it's, action and stick. So that's how it works. So emotion, logic. So anytime you do any sort of sales with a client, you need to make sure you give them both of these. Now, when I go through our sales process in a little while, I will explain how they work step by step, and I will also explain what does what and where it all sort of ties in. It's really, really interesting and really valuable. So this is just something to note, and obviously make sure you have this written down. Make sure you're making as many notes as you can here. Okay. Now, when we go into the next piece, so for a buyer, for them to want to buy from you, there's essentially 3 bits of information they need. Okay, I just want to check something. So there's 3 bits of information they need to be willing to buy from you. Okay, 3 bits. Okay, and the first thing is they need to know that they can trust you. Okay, they need to know they can trust you. And the only way you can get them to that position is you need to engage them. You need to build a relationship with them. You need to demonstrate credibility. You need to demonstrate, you know what you're talking. So there's a whole bunch of things that you need to do to get them to a point where they go, okay, great. I understand logically, okay, why you are an expert in this field, or, I feel like you are an honest and fair and genuine person. And the easiest way to demonstrate being honest, fair, and genuine is be honest, fair, and genuine. Be vulnerable, be open, talk about your past, talk about your history, talk about the things that you've done wrong as well as the things you've done right. Be 100% open. I can promise you, anyone can smell fluff and bullshit. Anyone can smell it. If you're a blagger, and there is millions of blaggers in this world, if you're a blagger, people will feel that on you. Okay, they won't necessarily see it, they won't necessarily hear it, but they'll feel it. They will feel it internally, because when you're being inauthentic, you feed that. So people feed off the energy and they go, come on, mate, it's bullshit. And you all know, right? You've all sat there chatting to somebody and they're waffling the story and you're like, oh, bollocks. Okay, and we all know this. We've all met these people. We've all spoken to these people. And whatever reason they do it, they're feeling insecure, they're feeling unhappy, they're looking for approval. Whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. The fact is, you can still feel it on them. So in exactly the same way, when you're having a conversation with somebody and you're trying to get them to trust and like you, okay, you need to be building rapport, you need to be open and vulnerable, you need to be honest, you need to demonstrate credibility and knowledge and understanding. It's a whole bunch of things you can do. And there's a lot of really easy and quick ways you could do it. unfortunately, I don't have enough time in this evening's webinar to be able to go through a whole bunch of steps in which you can do. And look, if you want to know more and you want to sit down with me and you want to buy me a coffee and, me talk to you about this stuff, I'm more than happy to do that on how you build rapport, how you mirror, you match, there's a whole series of things that you can do. But the priority number one is you need to get them into a position where they can trust you. Once somebody trusts you, they are much more likely to buy from you. Okay, that is priority number one. And to give you an example, I have clients that I can just give a call and say, hey, look, I've got a deal. This is the numbers. You need to buy it. I need you to send the reservation fee because I need it to be done quickly. And they go, okay, no worries, give me the bank details. They'll transfer the money. And they'll go, oh, by the way, what's the deal? Now, I built that through a long relationship of having delivered them really good deals, having been open, having been honest, having never bullshitted them. And if things didn't work out, always making a point of making that right and fixing the issues. And this is how you build those relationships. That's how you build that trust. Okay. And it's not built overnight, right? Like with any, relationship, friendship, whatever, it's built through time, through experience and through learning, through actions. Okay. So get them to trust you. That is number one. Number two is get them to trust your product. Okay. Now, the way in which you get them to trust your product is basically you demonstrate why your product's better than anything else out there. You can demonstrate testimonials. You can get them to speak to other people about it. You can show them the numbers. You can give them all the facts and figures. You can show how you worked out certain information. There's a whole bunch of things you can do to be able to demonstrate that your product is legit and they can trust your product. Okay. The biggest challenge within sourcing, as a prime example, is 90% of property sources out there are terrible. They overestimate how much it's worth. They underestimate the refurbishment cost. They overestimate the rental. And any savvy investor, you'll just look online and you go, mate, there's no way that we're getting anywhere near there. Okay, there's no way. And what you tend to find is sources, they don't tend to just stretch the truth with one item. And it's not out of malice, just for clarity. Most sources don't do this out of malice. They're trying to make the deal work because they don't have enough deals. You have enough deals, you don't make the deal work. You just give the simple facts because you have enough deals to be able to make or get people to a position where they're interested in buying at least something. If you only have one or two deals and you're trying to pump these out, a lot of people will massage figures internally, psychologically, without even realizing it, to try and make the deal work, to make it more attractive for an investor, unbeknownst to them that they're going to screw an investor over. It's super, super common. And it's not that sources are bad people. It's not that they're trying to screw anyone. It's just those that are inexperienced or don't have a wealth of sort of knowledge will do this. Okay, it's just par for the course. So as part of them trusting your product, you need to be able to demonstrate, and you can show them. So look, let's go take a look at some comparables. What's sold in the area? Oh, there we go. So we've got 2 or 3 that are sold around the same sort of price. So you can see how we got there. Or, here's the rental figures, or, here's this, or here's that. And you can sort of show them why the figures you're demonstrating are good. And what this does is this builds an amount of trust in the product. Okay, so that is getting them to trust you and getting them to trust the product. And the third and final one, and ironically, probably the biggest one of them all, is getting them to trust themselves to not screw it up. Okay, now once you get an experienced investor or an experienced person who knows your industry or is into your industry already, this happens a lot less, and they tend to be much more proactive because they have self-confidence in having the ability to do it. But if you have somebody new, somebody who doesn't know this process, somebody who is inexperienced, somebody who hasn't been through this before, or whatever it is, and they don't know the system, they will have internal doubts. So again, prime example, I signed up a client as a white label yesterday. Lovely guy, really nice, very friendly, very fair, asked a lot of questions, and you could feel the anxiety and the almost the nervousness about saying, yes, let's go join as a white label. And it's not because of the product, because you could see the product was amazing. It's not because he didn't trust me, because I've demonstrated that very well. It's because you could see he was thinking, can I do this? Am I going to make it? Is it possible? Can I make this work? Can I make some money? Whatever the internal dialogue is, you can feel it when you're talking to somebody where their head is at. Now, the more experience you get at this, the better you get at this. And what you'll start to do is pick up what it is that they're struggling to deal with. And you start to handle these objections before you get to the end of your sales or helping conversation. Okay, is you handle the objections as a throughout. So as an example, the easiest way I handle the objections is I go, look, I understand you haven't done this before, but don't worry. We've done like 1,000 of these, and our team will take care of everything. You don't need to do anything. So all you need to do is sign solicitors' paperwork, transfer the money, and fill in the fact find for the mortgage broker. We literally take care of everything else. So you don't even have to worry about doing anything. And what this immediately does, they go, oh, okay, so I've got the support network I need to make sure that I don't screw this up. Because that's a really handy way of doing it, is showing them that they have the support from you to prevent them having to worry about them screwing this up. Okay, so really, really nice, comfortable way to work. Or look, you've got me on speed dial, you've got me on WhatsApp, you know, I'm happy to grab coffees with you whenever. These kind of things are a really simple and effective support network. So they will feel confident in being able to move forward without worrying about them screwing it up. Okay, so those are the three things people need to hear before they will buy from you ever for any high ticket item or mid ticket item. They need to trust you, trust the system, and trust themselves. That's the three. Make sure you have those noted down if you haven't already. Next, so now we're going into the sales process. And I appreciate we've gone reasonably quick until we get to this point, because the sales process is actually quite well laid out. It's lengthy. I mean, I've sold 3, 4, 5 million pounds worth of goods, if not more, using exactly this process quite comfortably, without any major challenges or difficulty. Now, something to make note of is anytime you're trying to help somebody move from one place to another, they need to know that you are confident in what you're offering. Okay, so this forms part of them trusting you. The easiest way to make them feel confident that you know what you're talking about is speak from a place of conviction and belief. Okay, and this honestly, like if you haven't already, write that down. That is ultimately important when it comes to sales, is they need to believe in you. And the only way that you can get them to believe in you is you need to talk confidently. You need to talk concisely. You need to talk effectively. And they go, got you, got you. Don't worry, believe you. I get it. Because you talk from a place of, I know, it's okay. I know, I believe in it. I trust it. I know. And this gives people a lot more confidence in what you have to offer. Okay, so conviction goes like, it's like sky high is one of the biggest things you need to be able to do. And look, you can get borrowed confidence. You can psychologically feel like you're operating as somebody else. Like, what would they do in this situation? You know, how would Richard handle this? Or how would whoever handle this that you know has ultimate conviction in what you do? It's a really effective way in which you can comfortably say something from a position of authority, or a position of knowing, a position of trusting, a position of faith, a position of confidence. Okay, it's a really comfortable way in which you can do it. Okay, so that is the opening gambit. Now, when you talk about a solid sales process, the first thing you need to do, and this is no matter what the sales process is, as soon as you move into high ticket items, there is a series of things you need to do. And like with a person's love life, you don't rush into it. Okay, you don't rush into it. You have to take your time. You have to warm them up. You've got to create the foundations. You've got to build the relationship. You've got to build the trust. There's a whole bunch of groundwork you need to do to get them to buy. Now, that groundwork doesn't necessarily have to take a long time, but it has to be effective. Okay, so the very first thing you do anytime you have a sales conversation or a sales meeting, and your typical process on having a sales meeting or a sales conversation, is you get them through a marketing process. You get them curious. You get them wanting to know more. Okay, once they want to know more, you get them onto a one-to-one call or over a coffee is much, much better. Ironically, I know we're going to have some of our clients watching this, and you're going to see little elements of this where you're going to go, oh, you know, this is, I can see he's done this on me. And there's a part of you that may go, oh, bastard, he's done that on me. But the reality is I've helped you. And that's why this is fine. And that's why people don't resent me when they understand my process. They go, oh, I feel like I've just been churned through a process. But at the same time, they go, yeah, but I got what I wanted. So I'm actually really happy. So kind of, it's like, so what I'm doing now is I'm essentially the magician showing you how the magic trick works. And some people will go, oh, it's brilliant, I love it. And other people will go, oh, I feel like I've been cheated. Okay. But this is a fairly normal psychology and process. And then once you actually think about it, you'll go, actually, you know what, but I've got exactly what I want. I'm very happy with the outcome. So actually, I feel like he's helped me out. And that is where you need to get people to. So the first thing you need to do whenever you sit down with anybody, okay, after you've got them all pumped, you got them all excited, you got them curious, you got them wanting a cup of coffee, or you got them wanting a beer or some lunch, or whatever it is you do as part of your meeting process, is now you go through the next phase of rapport build. Okay, so your marketing will have them curious, and I'll sit down with you and go, okay, great. So what do you do? Okay, as a prime example. So you open up with just an opening gambit question, and you ask them just a series of questions about themselves. And what you're doing is you're looking for similarities to them and to you. So, you know, so what do you do? Oh, I do this. Okay, great. You know, You know, how are you enjoying it? You know, have you got any kids? Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I've got kids as well. Oh, do you do any sports? Oh, yeah, I do football as well. You know, oh, who do you play for? And what you're doing is you're creating this relationship, this companionship where they can see all of these things that where you're both so very similar. And the reason you do that is because you want them to realize that you're a human being as well. Not only that, but you're a human being that could be in their circle. You know, it could be just one of their mates, and you're trying to create that bond, that friendship, that relationship. And this is a shortcut way in which you can do it. There's a couple of other things you can do really effective. So what's called mirroring or matching. So if they talk at a high pace and they're really, really excitable, then you talk at a high pace and you're really excitable. Or, you know, if they talk really slow and they're really steady, you talk really slow and really steady and meaningful. Or if they gesticulate all the time and they're constantly, you know, very Italian with their hands, then when you're talking to them, you'll gesticulate very big, and you're essentially matching who they are and trying to match the gesticulations based on a certain wording. So if they go, you know, and I went to Rome and it was brilliant, and you go, so you went to Rome and it was brilliant. So, you know, you're creating something where they will see themselves in you and you in themselves. Okay, and this is a really good, effective way to shortcut that rapport building. You know, and you're using the same terminology, the same language, the same volume, the same pitch. You know, if they talk really high pitched, then you might go, well, you know, it's really good. And then you go, you know, so you try and mirror and match them as best as you can. You know, with physical body language, when you're sitting with them, if they're sat there with their leg crossed, you might sit with your leg crossed talking to them. If they're sitting there playing with their cup, you might sit playing with your cup while you're talking to them. These are all, so NLP is the term. So these are all NLP means in which you can build that rapport very, very quickly, very, very effectively. And for those of you that have spent any time with me will know that I build a relationship very quickly. You build trust, you like me, we get on very well. And I do a lot of this stuff, and I don't do it on purpose. I don't sit there and think, oh, well, I need to do, you know, it's part of who I am now. It's part of what's built in because I've spent so long honing these skills, practicing and training and learning how to do this. And I urge you, start to do this stuff. It'll make your relationships and your friendships, you know, so much more effective. It'll make your business dealing so much more effective. You know, you'll get your boss to like you more, you know, whatever. So you will be more liked, you will fit in better within your circles, within your society by doing these very simple, basic things. Okay. I highly urge you to start to do this. Now, once you get to a point where, you know, you've had maybe 5 to 10 minutes worth of just general chit chat, rapport building, getting to know each other, getting to find out a bit more about them. What you then do is you say, look, you know, what I want to do is I just want to just say thank you very much for coming along and meeting with me. Okay, so you're showing your appreciation. And then what you do is you do something called positioning the meeting. Now, positioning the meeting is basically where you are laying out the premise of the meeting. Now, if you think whenever you go to a job interview or anything like that, you'll often find that when you go in there, you will feel like you're in the back seat, you know, you're being interviewed by them and it's like, oh my God, you know, they're asking me all these questions. I'm so nervous. I'm so scared. Imagine if you went to that meeting and the first thing you said is, look, I really appreciate you guys meeting with me. I'm excited to see if your company is a company I want to work for. Okay, now what this does is this then means that they're not interviewing you, you are now interviewing them, and that will completely change the logic of the meeting. Okay, it completely repositions it. So you're not the one being asked all the questions. They will then feel under pressure to get your approval. It's a very, very different psychology. Now, in the instance of property sourcing, what I will often do, and I don't tend to do it so much anymore because I kind of don't feel the need, but if I'm really trying to get something close, I'll say, look, you know, it's honestly, it's really great to get to know you, and thank you very much for taking the time. And I'm very keen to see if, you know, if you're the type of client we can work with, you're the type of client we can help to be able to build your portfolio. And it's a really simple statement. It's not offensive, it's not aggressive, it's not assertive. It's a really light and soft statement. But what it does do is they go, oh yeah, I would love to see if I'm one of those clients that you can help. And it changes the dynamics of that conversation very, very early on. Okay, so positioning the meeting is extremely important to make you not feel so nervous, to make you not feel like you're the one on trial asking for things and so on and so forth. It's a really nice way to get that underway. The third thing is something we call the fact find. So now you have the meeting set in the correct way, and you've positioned yourself to being the one who asks the questions. Something to note, and this is extremely important when it comes to any sales conversations, and again, a nice big one to write down. He who asks the questions is in control. Okay. He who asks the questions is in control, or she, it doesn't really matter, it's irrespective. The person that is asking the questions in the meeting is the one that controls the meeting. So you need to get very good and very effective at taking back control. So if somebody says to you, oh, okay, and how long have you been doing this? Okay, what you would do is you would then answer the question with a question. This is how politicians control meetings, just as an item. And I'm not saying that I condone how politicians operate, but it's a really great way in which they control the meeting. So instead of them saying, well, I've been doing this for 15 years and waiting for a response, they would say, so I've been in this industry about 15 years. How's about yourself? Now, what you're doing is you're giving them an answer, but you're reflecting so that you are still maintaining control by asking them a question. Then when they respond, you will then follow that through with a follow-up question and a follow-up question. And you are feeding and controlling the relationship and the conversation where you say very little and they say a lot because you're spending the entire time inquiring and getting their information. Okay, and the fact find is very simply an opportunity for you to, one, continue to build rapport, because the one thing that people love to do and love to talk about is themselves. This is a fact. The easiest way to get somebody to talk to you for an entire day is just keep them talking about themselves, because a person's most interesting subject and most enjoyable subject is themselves. And the reason is very simple, because they know everything about them. They feel very comfortable because they will never be bamboozled when asked about themselves, because they're the only ones that know the answers typically. So it's a really, really interesting thing to keep them talking about themselves. Now, your fact find, there's a couple of things you're looking to find out. You want to find out, firstly, are they a good client for you? So, is it somebody who's skittish or scared or anxious, or is it somebody who's, willing to make a convicted step and move forward and, assert themselves and get things moving? So you're trying to find out if they're a good client for you. And you can do that through whatever questions. So, have you invested before? And how did you find the process? How long did it take you to buy your first property? Or, so you're asking them a series of questions that gives you that information. That's the first thing. Second thing you want to understand is, how new are they to the industry? If this is their first property, getting them over the line is typically going to be significantly harder than if they already own 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever properties, because they will feel more confident in the process and trusting themselves. And the final piece that is extremely valuable is understanding their capital position. Now, the reason I say this is because if you're trying to assist someone in buying something, and they say, well, I'm living in credit, I've got like £300 to my name, immediately you should be going, well, there's no point me taking them through an entire sales process if it is physically impossible for them to buy the product I'm selling. It makes no sense. It's illogical. Okay. And don't sit there and feel like, oh, well, I'm just shutting them because I have no money. No, you're not wasting your time trying to sell something to somebody and embarrass them, making them feel like they want something that they can't afford. That is also not very cool. Okay. And it can be embarrassing for people to be offered to buy something and they're like, look, I just don't have enough money. It's not always an enjoyable experience for people to acknowledge that. So what you can do is you can save them that and say, and essentially move the meeting very swiftly along to just having a chat about some coffee or whatever else, and redirecting the conversation into something that will be non-sales based or whatever else, and just leaving the conversation on a good relationship level where maybe you can try and pick that up again in the future, having built a good rapport. Okay, so those are the three things you need to be understanding as part of your fact find: what kind of person they are, whether they are experienced or new, and if they have enough capital to actually get involved with what it is that you're offering. Okay, and that's a really useful thing to understand. And this comes back down to essentially them trusting themselves, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so that is fact find. Now, the fourth thing, okay, and this is a really, really interesting one. So often what you'll find is the reason somebody's talking to you about a product, so typically they might have come to you through your marketing, the reason they're there is because they want something from you. Don't for a second think that you're the only one that wants something out of this transaction. They're there because they want something from you. Okay, this is how this works. Every relationship, friendships, marriages, whatever else, it is a share and exchange of value. I make her feel loved. She makes my breakfast. I make him feel happy. He makes me laugh. Well, it doesn't matter what the share exchange is, but there is always an exchange of value one way or the other. That is how every relationship works. So that person sitting across from you or on the Zoom call from you or whatever is there because they would also like to get something from that relationship. Now, if you don't offer them anything, or if they don't offer you anything, it's not going anywhere, because a relationship has to be a give and take. So it's just something to understand. So what you need to understand is, at this point, you know what they want, okay, because they answered to your marketing or they answered to your conversation. You already know that they're interested in your product. What you need to understand at this point is, why have they not got it? Why have they not taken the step? Why have they not achieved what they want to achieve? Why have they not bought the house? Why have they not bought the car? Why have they not bought the watch? Okay. And you need to try and understand why not. So understanding what's holding them back. Okay. That's essentially what you're trying to find out. So, okay. So you're interested in buying a property, and, obviously we're talking because you're interested in buying one. Is there any reason you haven't found any property elsewhere? And what they'll typically tell you is, oh, I couldn't find a good opportunity, or, I don't trust estate agents. Whatever the conversation is, what you're trying to do is you're trying to understand what the logical piece is that is holding them back. Now, once you understand what the logical piece is that holds them back, what you want to do is you want to essentially elaborate. My apologies, I'm going to take off my jumper because it is roasting warm in here. Okay, and apologies for the wire, which you will see now. So what you need to do is you need to elaborate on, if they didn't do that, what would be the inevitable outcome. Sorry, bear with me 1 second while I just get this wiring. And apologies for any funny noise. I wasn't expecting it to be this warm, if I'm honest. Cool. Okay, hopefully you guys can hear me okay. So what you want to understand is, what is the inevitable outcome if they don't make a change, if they don't find the property, if they don't find the car, if they don't find the watch? What is the inevitable outcome? Okay. So obviously, so great. We're sitting down here. We're talking about how I can help you buy a property, build your portfolio, blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, obviously, if I can't help you and you can't get help elsewhere, I mean, what's going to happen? And they're going to go, well, if I don't find anything, I'm obviously going to get frustrated. And you go, okay, cool. And you kind of want to dig into this. So you want to ask them more and more what we call probing questions. You want to dig into this and get them to a point where they acknowledge and understand the fact that it's very real, that if they can't get help getting what they want, it is going to make their life more miserable, less happy, less enjoyable, some sort of negative outcome. And you want to keep digging into this to a point where you finally get them to a point where they acknowledge the fact that they kind of really need this to be able to move their lives forward and feel happy or content or whatever it is they're looking for. And once you have dug into this and you have the logical outcome, well, honestly, if I don't end up, buying this investment property, it means all I'm going to do is I'm not going to be able to create more of an income, which means I'm going to be stuck at work for the next 20 years. And, and I'm going to be working for the same boss, and I'm going to be frustrated, and you say, how do you feel about it? Well, if I'm at that point, I'd be frustrated, or I'd be unhappy, or I'd be sad, or I'd be annoyed, or I'd be angry, or whatever the emotion is. And you want to get them to a point where you have all of the logical outcome, as to where they're going to get to. And then you ask them, and how would that make you feel? Okay, now, honestly, ladies, this is an easy question for you guys, because the reality is you ladies are really good and well in tune with your emotions. Men, I appreciate this is a very awkward and uncomfortable question to ask. Ask it. Don't fanny about. You're already at this point. You've already asked them all the way to the depths of where they want to go. And providing you've actually asked enough probing questions, and the way in which you have is you can see they are visibly unhappy or visibly feeling the emotion that you're about to ask them, and they're going to give you the answer. You can see they're getting frustrated. You can see they're living in that new imagined reality based on the questions you're asking. Okay. And once you get them to that point, you go, and honestly, if you're in that position where, you've been working 25 years, more than you should have, you haven't had a chance to see your kids, you've been, you haven't had a chance to spend time with your wife, your wife's left you, or whatever, it doesn't matter. You go through the whole process. How would that make you feel? And guaranteed they're going to be like, well, angry or frustrated, or, and you can see the impetus, the emphasis that they give on that word. Okay, that word, you make a mental note of that word, as well as the logical outcome, the worst case logical outcome that they get to. And I tell you why, because you're going to come back to that later. So you're making mental notes of the big triggers, the big facts of where they're at now. Once you've done this and you have that emotional thing laid out, always thank them, appreciate them, show them that you appreciate their openness, their honesty. And just so you know, if you get to this point and you can see that somebody's super reluctant to be able to give you any information, they're like skirting around it, and they're going about it in a very British or Italian way, where you can see they don't really want to delve into it. They're just, yeah, well, I suppose, be frustrating, but and they're doing all that sort of stuff. Okay, you need to show them vulnerability on your part so that they realize that they can be vulnerable with you. And the easiest way to do that is just tell them a story. Tell them a story about some way which you've achieved or felt something very similar, where you go, you know, and I remember we onboarded these new business partners, you know, so I'll tell you a story. So I always say, look, let me tell you a story. So I remember when I was first new into property, and, you know, I was 100% committed. I ended up leaving my contract. I left work, you know, and I knew I wanted to get this started. I knew I wanted to go and change my life, and I knew I wanted to do all of these things. And honestly, it took forever, and I was struggling to find properties, and I was struggling to be able to find the right people. And, you know, anything I did, I just felt like I was coming up against barrier after barrier and barrier. And it was super frustrating. And honestly, I was so fed up. Okay. And what you've done is you've now just shown vulnerability. Now, you always want to give a positive twist to any story. You don't want to leave them in the negative space. And you go, and, you know, honestly, and typically what I try and do at this point is I tell them the action point that I want them to take as part of the conversation, so that there's a new understanding, a new learning in their brain. So I'd say, and what I did is I ended up finding a really good person who helped me in finding good investment opportunities, who helped me to buy the right property, who helped me to blah, 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 whatever it is. And obviously, as you can see, I'm doing very well. I managed to buy X number of houses or whatever else the positive outcome is. And what you've done is you've shown them vulnerability by talking to them about your experiences, your life, what's gone wrong for you in a very real, visceral, and honest way. And don't skirt about going, well, you know, it's pretty rough and, yeah, it was okay. Because that defeats the whole point. You need to delve right into your deep emotions at that point and be vulnerable, be open, be honest, because that's how they're going to trust you. That is how trust is built. Okay, so once you've gone to that point and you've exposed a little bit of yourself where you are vulnerable, and then you talk about, and, you know, the action I took was X, which, by the way, is the action you want them to take. The action I took was, you know, I trusted somebody, I put my trust in them, and I spoke to them, and I spent time with them, and I built a relationship with them, and they showed me, helped me buy a property, they've helped me find a property, whatever it is. That's the thing. And then you give them a really nice positive outcome as to where you're at, the good things you've achieved, and all the benefits that have happened in your life ever since. And this gives them a psychological learning of, well, if you can do it, so can I. And that's the whole premise of that story. So if they are not being vulnerable, tell them a story and show them, if you can do it, so can I. That's what you're trying to show them. Okay. So that's the interesting bit. Now, when you get to that point and you've had the vulnerability and you've had them exposing their real feelings, you know, their guts are on the table and you can see it's really, it's raw. At that point you say, look, thank you very much for being open and honest. You know, I appreciate that. And show appreciation, because that's a big thing to do, to get somebody to expose that kind of level of vulnerability. Okay. And honestly, this takes a lot of practice. This takes a while. You need to be digging into this. You need to be spending time here, you know, practice on friends, on family and everything, and try and get to the raw emotions of certain things that they do. It's a really valuable thing to do. Now, when you're at this point and you've thanked them, what you then need to do, okay, because you've thanked them, you've closed off that section of the conversation for them. You now say, okay, great. Now, if I can help you find this property, and I can help you find more properties, and I can help you make this money, and I can help you start to create your financial security and move your life in the right direction to be able to change your life forever, tell me about it. What would you do? What would your life look like? Okay. And what you're trying to get them to do is create. They've now imagined the low, and you're trying to get them to create an imagination or imagine the high. And they go, I don't know, like, you know, I might retire in 5 years and, you know, actually take my wife on a lovely holiday, and, you know, whatever these things are. And you're like, oh, okay, where would you go? Well, you know, I always thought I want to go to the Maldives. And you're like, and, you know, what do you pick in your mind's eye? What do you picture that will look like? Like, oh, I don't know, like, you know, just sat on a beach with a palm tree hanging over me, and me and my wife on these deck chairs with a big umbrella, you know, and we're drinking cocktails, and we can hear the sea, and, you know, and you know, and who's around you, and who are you with, and what does it sound like, and what does it feel like, you know, is it warm, and you're asking all these questions, create this visceral imagined story, imagined picture from their mind's eye, so that they can visually see themselves in that position. So they fully imagine and immerse themselves in that new vision of their life. And you go, and how does that make you feel? Okay. And you try and understand the effect of doing this and how it makes them feel. Okay. So the effect of doing this is, well, you know, it gives me a better marriage, and, you know, I can feel my relationships better with my kids, and, you know, I can work on the things that I want to do, and I can get fit and healthy, and I can drive a nice car, and whatever it is, these imagined things. You go, how does that make you feel? And they go, honestly, I feel like $1 million. I feel free. You know, I feel amazing. And interestingly enough, I'm going through this, and I can guarantee you almost every single one of you there are going, Jesus, this is amazing. I feel myself. I'm there. I'm on the beach. I've got the car. I've got a happy life. And I know you're feeling this, because this is how this works. The brain is the most amazing tool you have. And all you have to do is enable people to tap into their imagination. And once you're at that point and you know how they would feel if their life was doing everything they need, and you know the word they associate with that and what their life physically looks like, you got them. You got them because you know if you do your job right and you physically help them, you can help make that a reality. And your job as part of sales is to help take them from a point where they risk this terrible, horrendous journey, and you help them create the new reality in their life. And you're not going to do it overnight. It's not going to be in a year. It's not going to be in 2 years, 5 years. It's probably going to be in 7, 8, 9, 10 years. It doesn't matter. The point is your job is to take them from this potential terrible thing that might happen if it doesn't work out for them, and help them achieve this new life that they really want to achieve. When they're on the beach, they've got a better marriage, they've got a nice car, a nice house, or a fit body, or whatever it is they're looking for. Okay, that is your job. And at this point, you want to thank them and say, look, thank you very much for being able to share that with me. I really appreciate you telling me this. It's an amazing vision. I see the same thing. I'd love to do this as well. And again, you keep with the rapport, you keep these conversations. Now, once you've thanked them, at this point, you want to summarize the conversation. Okay. Now, the reason you summarize the conversation at this point is because they will feel like you have listened, like you have heard them. And you want to summarize using their language, using their actions, using their tone, using their pitch, mirroring and matching, okay, including the vocabulary they use. So you say, okay, great. So, you've told me about yourself. You told me you work in this, you do this, you got X number of kids, blah, 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 blah. And, you want to invest in property, but, you've really been struggling because you've struggled to be able to find the good deals. You don't want to work with estate agents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you know that if you don't manage to find good deals, you're probably going to be stuck working in this job for the next 20 years. You're going to be miserable. You're going to hate your boss. You're going to resent your life. You're going to feel like things haven't worked out. It's going to affect your relationship with your family, blah, blah, blah. And eventually you're going to feel miserable or upset and frustrated and sad. However, if we work together, so this is where you introduce what you do and you show that you can assist them. So if we work together and I can help you to be able to find properties that give you an income, give you a cash flow, and assist you in building your portfolio and creating a cash flow and put you on the right path to being investing so you can start to make some money and maybe even retire in the next 5 years. And over the next 5 to 10 years, be in a position where you can finally relax. You can go on a beach with your wife. You can go to the Maldives. You can be sitting on a hot beach on your sun lounges, drinking Mai Tais under the coconut tree, listening to the waves and the hot weather, where you've got a better marriage because you get to spend more time with your wife. You get to spend more time with your kids. You get to send them to a nice school. You get to buy a nice car. You've got the fit body because you have time to be able to work out. All of these different things, the language patterns they use, the wordings that they use. By the time you get to the end of that, you say, does that sound about right? Now, you'll know if you've nailed it because immediately if you have, they'll go, oh, yes, absolutely, it's perfect. Okay, and you've got them. You know that they know that you've heard them. You've listened, which is the most important skill you have here. You've listened. You've taken on board what they've said. If you haven't got it right, they will correct you, which means you need work. Simple. Okay, and I would work on your vocabulary recall and conversational recall in people's conversations. But you'll just chat with someone. You say, oh, okay, so this is something you're feeling and doing, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, now once you get to this point and you've summarized and they say, yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's exactly right. You go, okay, cool. Okay, because now you've got them. They're very aware of where they could be going if you don't help them and where they could be going if you do help them. You go, okay, great. So at this point, you show them the product. You say, okay, great. And don't go through all the logical steps and all this sort of stuff. Okay, the logical steps are going to destroy the sale because it gets them out of the emotional state. If you have a long, convoluted, logical business model where you say, we're going to have to do this, and you do this, and we do that, and then we do this, and then you do that. So all that stuff, you then want to pump that right up to the beginning, straight before the fact find. You say, okay, great. So just to let you know, obviously part of what we do is this, 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 and this, and this. And then you move them into this conversation. But if your product's a really easy buy, a really easy chew in where they go, look, we'll help you find a really good investment property and we'll take care of everything for you. It's really easy. They don't have to logically understand it. They don't have to spend a lot of logical time in there, okay, which makes it a much easier sell. So at this point, you'd say, look, obviously, so my job is to facilitate you getting the thing that you want. So you finding a really good investment property where you can make the yield, you can do blah, 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 to save you having to go through these terrible down things, okay? So Right now, and of course, you've now shown them and you've presented a bridge. I used to like to draw a bridge at this point. I said, okay, so my job is I operate and I go, okay, so you have one bank here, you have some water in the middle, you have another bank here. My job is to act as a bridge. So I will take you from this place that you currently are and I will take you to that place where you want to get to. Does that make sense? And they go, yes, it makes sense. You go, okay, excellent. Okay. And the way in which I'm going to do this, okay, is you offer them a no-brainer. So I'm going to find you the best investment properties that I can possibly find that will move you in the right direction. Now, you've given them a very, very short snippet of your product, and now you move into what we call the no-brainer. So now they know the product, right? They know the product. And like I say, if it's a long, convoluted product, bring it right to the beginning, because at this point, it's purely emotion you need them on. So if they're thinking logically at this point, they're not buying, because nobody buys high-value goods based on logic. Nobody. So you have to keep them in the emotional frame. And if it's a logical thing, you need to bring that right to the beginning so that you can get them into the emotional frame for this point. Now, at this point, I like to do what we call presenting the no-brainer, okay? And the no-brainer is very simple. So you go, okay, great. So you're now in a position where you kind of got two choices. I see you're at a crossroad in your life. Okay, so either you can take the path you've been doing the entire time, looking for yourself, trying to find good agents, trying to find good this, trying to find good that. And obviously it's not working for you. And who knows, it may work. You're a smart guy, it's possible, but the reality is so far it hasn't. And if it hasn't worked for you, there's a good chance it's not going to work for you, which means you're going to continue to get this and get that and, not find any properties, and if you don't find any properties, then you're going to find yourself and you're probably going to end up working for the next 20 years, being frustrated, miserable, and unhappy. Or you can take the other road and we work together and I assist you in building your portfolio. If I assist you in building your portfolio, you're much more likely to be in a position where you're making more of an income. You start to get passive income. You create your financial security. You get to a position that you can retire, within the next 5 years, maybe, and even be spending much more of your life on the beach, sipping Mai Tai, spending more time with your family, your wife, and feeling free and fantastic. So for me, it's really simple. Do you want to keep doing what you're doing, or shall we work together and move your life forward? There's only one answer, right? This is the no-brainer. Guaranteed at that point, they go, well, obviously we're going to, we have to work together. And you go, okay, great. Okay, so now you've got them through the no-brainer and they have emotionally accepted the fact that they need to work with you. And once you've done this, you ask for the sale. Now, this is where most people go wrong, is they go, oh, okay, great. Yeah. So, let's do this. Let's pick up a call next week. And, then they completely lose all momentum because they're too scared to ask for the sale. So at this point, I'll go, okay, great. Look, we've got a property that I think is perfect for you. Okay, it's this house over here, has great returns, great discount, great yield. And honestly, it's definitely one you need to be buying. Okay, shall we just get this underway? Let's get the ball rolling. Look, there's no commitment. You put down a £500 reservation fee and it's 100% refundable. So you don't even need to worry about it. We'll go view it. We'll go do all the other bits and pieces. We'll report back. And if you don't want it, you don't go ahead with it. But let's get it down because honestly, you don't want to let this deal go. So let's get that done. Does that make sense? And they go, yeah, that makes sense. You go, okay, great. Get out your card. Now, just so you know, this scares the living shit out of most people, and that's fine. I've literally sat across the table from people I've known for 45 minutes and taken 10 grand from them to go and build their portfolio for them. And effectively, let me be clear, I knew what I was doing was assisting them, but it happens through a 45-minute conversation using exactly this, okay? So at this point, you say, okay, great. So get your card out. What we're going to do is we're going to do the reservation fee. So I'm just going to set this up. Okay, great. What's your card details? You get them to plug it in. They hit pay and it goes, okay, great. So the payment's through. That property is now yours. I'm going to set up the WhatsApp group, blah, 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 blah. And you talk to them about the next logical steps, get them all pumped. They go, okay, I can see how that's going to work. And you go, have you got any questions? But you wait till after the sale before you ask them that. If they ask you questions when you're asking for the sale, it's because you haven't nailed the rest of the conversation. But if they ask you questions after the sale, you've done it. You've got them. Okay, you've got them exactly where you need them to assist them in moving forward from where they are, getting out of their own freaking way and getting them to where they need to be to go and move their life forward, to be able to improve their future, to get where they want to get to. Okay, you have helped them effectively by helping them get out of their own way of success. Okay, that is the nature of sales. That's how this whole thing works. Has this been useful, by the way, to you guys? Okay, because at this point, like you take your payment, you're done. Like that's it. That's the whole process, step by step by step. Has this been useful? Give me a yes if it's been useful. Okay, absolutely. Okay, fantastic. Excellent. Yes, brilliant. Yes, fantastic. Okay, cool. Yep, hands up, thumbs up. Okay, brilliant. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so that is your sales process. So just so you know, I used to charge an awful lot of money for mentorship to teach people this. I'm obviously giving this away for free because for me, the value is actually working with people who want to operate and partner with us. So now you have a really good relationship with me, right? You know how I operate. You know that I know what I'm talking about. You know I've got credibility. You know that the business model works. You know that this is all really good. So now my job is very simply to say, do you want to make money? That's it. Do you want to make money? Because if you want to make money, and you want me to show you and coach you and mentor you and teach you how to make a lot more money, okay, all you need to do is message me privately. I will set up, we'll have a conversation, we'll talk about white label, we'll show you how you can make a lot more money. And that's it. Okay, so the choice is, you continue what you're doing, attending webinars, going to events, speaking to people, having lots of conversations, while knowing that not a lot of your life moves forward, or we can work together and I can show you how to make a lot more money. I can show you how to create that financial security. I can show you how not to have to work in a job where you're unhappy or whatever else. I can create that reality for you. The only question is, are you prepared to do what it takes? Okay, and the answer is yes, of course. Either you're going to carry on doing what you're doing, which, may be working to some semblance, or I can show you how to do it better and make a lot more money and do a lot better and achieve a lot more for your life. Start to make a real impact. Now, if you want to do that, I will do that through assisting you through coaching, through white label, through helping you throughout all of that. Okay. But the action you need to take is you need to message me privately, okay, or email me, contact@trustbricks.co.uk and say, I would like to talk about white label. Okay. That's all you need to do. So if you're catching this as a recording, if you're catching this live or whatever else, if you aren't already on our white label list, that's what you need to do. Email me, contact@trustbricks.co.uk. Okay, and you'll see it. Oh, if I can get this thing to work. Okay. I'll come back to these. Okay, so contact@trustbricks.co.uk. You see it right there at the bottom. Okay, do that. Message me. I want to talk about Trust Bricks. I want to talk about white label. Okay, I want to talk about white label. That's all you need to state. I will then reach out to you. Make sure your phone number's in there. I will reach out to you. We'll talk about white label. I'll show you how to make a lot more money than you could possibly imagine. Okay. So now you have that, you have your ask for sale. So just ask for sale, no payment required, no risk taken, other than a very basic email followed up by a very, very simple conversation, right? Now, if for whatever reason they do not buy at that time, and it happens, right? It does happen. Sometimes people are, oh, I've got to talk to my wife, which by the way is a huge sabotage of sale, my wife or my husband. Typically, you'll lose 70 to 80% of sales at that point because they haven't experienced the conversation. So you always want to make sure that you can be part of the conversation with the wife or the husband. That's the only way you can ensure that it is much likely to go ahead. Okay. But if they need to go away, they need to think, they need to sort out finances, whatever it is, effective sales, effective follow-up. Hey, how's it going? Really great to speak to you yesterday. Hope you had a really good day. I'm really keen to be able to move you forward so that you can achieve a lot more of X. If you're about, let's jump on a call. Okay. Hey, next day, hey, how's it going? Hope you had a good day. I never heard from you yesterday. Are you still interested in achieving X? And you can do a few of these things. And at some point you can do, if you're getting no response for a period of time, is you can do, and it's a one-time gig. Okay. It's only a one-time gig. You can do this. Okay. And that is what we call like the last, it's the last stand statement. Again, I've done this to great effect. So after a week, these people are ignoring you, they're not coming back to you, or, oh yeah, I'll come back to you, and nothing ever really happens. Okay. I do what's called the last ditch effort, where you're just like, hey, look, I'll keep reaching out to you and you're not coming back to me. I'm assuming you no longer want to achieve X and you're more than happy for your life to end up at Y, or at the very least, struggle to be able to achieve anywhere near X. If you are still interested in achieving X, let me know. We'll grab a coffee and we can talk. Okay, this is like a last ditch effort. You only do it when you feel like, well, I have no other chance. That's it. I feel like this relationship's almost completely severed. Okay, and that's the last ditch attempt. And that works 30% of the time, but it's better than none. So it's a worthwhile item to know. Okay. All right. There's comments. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Lots of comments. Perfect. So necessity of great delivery and communication. Now, selling is only about 30% of the work. Okay. What you have to do from this point is you have to give them follow-up tasks. You have to follow up with them with information. Okay, great. So you've taken this deal. So let's set you up a WhatsApp group. Let's do this. So you do all of these things, and you are in constant communication with them for a period of time to allow them chance to be able to trust that what you've offered and sold them is real. Okay. And also to show them that you are there to support them and deliver on the product. Okay. It is really, really, really important, particularly for your follow-up period, for your post-purchase period. What we call it is the rescission period, because they normally have a period in which they can cancel, but you really want to give them a lot of love, a lot of attention, a lot of care. You know, hey, so the team's going to reach out. Hey, so we're connecting this solicitor. Hey, so we're doing this, we're doing. So you're doing all of these things that they can feel and they can see things are moving forward and they can see the action and realize that, oh shit, this is real. This is working. It's actually happening. Because honestly, if you just leave them out in the dark, they will cancel or they will just disengage. Okay. And this happens all the time. You need to make sure you keep them warm. And the other thing you need to do is, other than good communication, is you need to make sure you deliver on everything you promised you would. If you say to them, look, I'm going to reach out to you tomorrow, I'm going to connect you with a solicitor, or we're going to organize this, or blah, 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 blah. You better do that. Because if you don't, immediately in their head, they go, well, he said he's going to do that. He hasn't done that. And if he hasn't done that, what else is he not going to do? Oh, well, if he's not going to do that, then he's probably not going to do that. Oh, probably, I'm going to get screwed here. I can feel it. And immediately they start to withdraw and pull their way back. So you need to effectively deliver on what you say you're going to deliver on and communicate, keep them warm, keep them loved up, and just maintain that strong relationship and that bond and make them realize the fact that you're not a one-trick pony. You're not there just to sell them and ditch them, right? You need to be there for the follow-up, for the support, for the loving, for the care, to keep them engaged with the product. And this honestly is when 95% of salespeople fall over, because they love the action. They love to get the sale over. They love to get that thing done. But once that's done, they're like, okay, I've done my job. I'm moving on. I want to speak to the next person. Okay. It is a huge, huge problem. So make sure you deliver on your promise here. It's a really, really important item. Yeah, so true. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly right. It is 100%. Okay. Now, to give you a bit of an example, right? So if any of you guys are out there and you're going, well, you know, I want to invest in property. I want to buy some houses. I want to make some money, blah, blah, blah. And you're interested in investing in property. If I were to go through the same process with you, the reality is, with property investing, you're going to be making 30% returns, including appreciation, going to be making an income, you're going to have your growth, and it's compounded growth and value. You know, your property's double in price or double in value every 8 to 10 years, but you only invest 25% of the value of the property. So you're making money hand over fist. You know, over 10 years, you're making more than 5 times the amount of money. So, you know, you put in 10 grand and in 10 years time, it's worth 50 grand. You're making money hand over fist, which enables you to buy more property, to create more income, to create more success for your life. Okay, rather than sat on the sideline going, oh, I wish I bought a house. I wish I did this. I wish I did that, you know, living the life of regret. You're in a position where you start to achieve the things you want to achieve. And the easiest way to do that is take the action, take the step, buy the property, move things along. Okay, and not be fearful, not be scared, not be anxious, not be worried about whether it'll work, because you know that your worker is somebody who, we know exactly what we're doing. We've done this before. We've delivered on this product before. We've done 1,000 of these. I've created so much financial for people over the years by investing in properties exactly like this. So if you want to change your life, this is the kind of property you want. And the answer is very simple. You're buying something at a discount. You know, you're buying it for a £15,000 discount. You're making £15,000 the day you buy this property. You know, you're investing about £40,000, but the value is like over £50,000 in terms of what you got. Okay, so it's really, really nice. You're creating wealth. You're creating money purely by buying at the right price. And on top of that, you're making an income. You're making a cash flow on a monthly basis that moves your life forward. Rents go up each and every single year, but your mortgage prices stay the same, which means your income goes up every year, as well as the value going up and your equity going up every year. So this is a prime example of a kind of property that I would offer to a client, because it has one of two things. It has a reasonable yield in a good grow area. Warrington's a strong growth area, and it's got a really nice discount of over 10%. So you're buying it for 120,000. It's worth 135, 140,000. The refurbishment we put in 5,000, probably going to be 1 or 2,000, because it typically is. You know, you've got a net income of over £200 a month, which is reasonable. It's not bad. You know, you're into the deal for circa 40,000, but once you refinance, you'll only be into the deal for, I don't know, 25,000. So you're in a much stronger, much better position where all of a sudden you're making a lot of money and you're not having to spend an awful lot of money to be able to move your life forward. Okay, so this is the typical example of something I'd show, and I could talk about the yields, I could talk about everything else as to what the real value of this is, but I just know this is a great deal. The irony is if you've done your job right, people don't really care about the deal. Now, I'm not saying sell them a shit deal, because that's not how this works. That is not fair and honest sales. That is manipulation. That is theft. That is robbery. It's not how we operate. Okay, this stuff is very powerful. And if you misuse this in the world, you can really hurt people. Okay, but if you're offering them something like this, something brilliant, something genuine, something they know they're going to make a lot of money with, when you then tell them, look, this is the deal you need to buy, they'll look at it and go, okay, and you say, look, it's got a great discount, it's got a great yield to make a good cash flow, you'll make some really good money, and you make 15 grand just by buying it. Immediately somebody goes, okay, cool. So he's thought this through, he knows what he's talking about. I trust him, I trust his system, and I actually trust myself because I know he's going to take care of it. At this point, sale is done. It's very, very simple. Okay, you take them to your website, you get them to buy whatever it is. Okay, just as a bit of an example. Okay, so that is the available deal of the week. Now, as I mentioned, if you want to reach out to us and you want to talk about white label, go to contact@trustbricks.co.uk, drop me an email. I want to talk about white label. Make sure your phone number's in there. I will reach out to you personally. Okay, and I'm hoping that I'll have a whole bunch of your emails in my inbox, because it should be, because otherwise you're too scared to take a step to make money, which makes no freaking logical sense. What are you scared of? You take no risk, it's an email. And if you're scared to send the email, what are you scared of? Because you're not scared of failure. So this is always the one that people are, oh, I'm scared of failure. I'm scared of not being able to do it and blah. By not doing it, by not entering the race, you are guaranteed you will not win it. It's a fact. You are 100% guaranteeing your failure by not entering the race. So it's not fear of failure. It is fear of success. It is fear of knowing that all of a sudden you can lead a life that is far out of your comfort zone, so much better than you ever thought was even possible. And it creates anxiety. It makes people scared. They're anxious. They're like, geez, like, I don't have to work. And, I'm not like working 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day, and I can actually holiday and spend time with my wife. And oh my God, and it creates all of these anxieties and nerves and fears. So if you haven't emailed, ask yourself, why? Why? Really interesting. Now, the reason I say that is because when you have a conversation with a client and they don't take action, understand in your mind why you didn't take action. Interesting, right? There's a little part of you that should realize not taking action at this point makes you a fool. It makes no sense. It's illogical. Crazy, right? Very, very interesting stuff. Okay, if you wanted to reach out to us at any time, obviously, if you want to see our deals, go on to trustbricks.co.uk. If you wanted to reserve a property, reserve straight from the site or drop us a message. I'm happy to be able to talk you through a deal. Please do connect to us on our socials, whether you're a LinkedIn or a Twitter or a Insta or, whatever, YouTube user, whatever it is. Please go and find us on the socials. Please follow us, connect with us, like our posts and stuff. We send out deals daily. We send out useful market information. We send out about our live events. We send out about other webinars. So we send out a ton of very useful information. So please do go on there. Please do follow us. I do appreciate it. It helps our channel grow. Also, please do check out our YouTube channel. We've got a ton of really important, really useful information, ranging through all property basics, how to invest, how to source property, how to make money. Like there's a ton of really useful stuff, how to release equity from your house, how to build an effective portfolio, how to make money, what to invest in 2020. There's a ton of really useful information on there. So please do go check it out. But check those videos out. If you've got any questions, make a comment in the video. I will respond to those, or one of the team will respond to those over the coming week, within that time. So we're generally pretty quick. And yeah, do please like and subscribe to the videos on there. It really helps us reach a lot more people and helps the channel grow. But in the meantime, I just wanted to say thank you very much. Have you guys got any questions? Is there anything I can answer? Is there anything you would like to know? Anything burning? And it's great because I don't often get a lot of questions, which means I normally have effectively told everyone what they want to hear. But sometimes there's some amazing questions that come out. So if you guys have any questions, I'm going to keep on waffling for another minute or two, give you guys to write a question. If you do have a question, typically I ask, just give a Q in the chat so I don't hang up before you get to ask your question, because there's nothing worse than you've typed out your question furiously, and as you hit enter, the call ends, and you're like, I didn't get to answer my question or ask my question. So if you've got a question, please do drop a Q in the chat. I will give you some time to be able to write your question out, and I'm more than happy to assist. Okay, where is the link for the white label? So just drop me an email, Tony. Just say, I want to talk about white label, and I will happily do that with you. No problem whatsoever. I'm just the usual contact at trustbricks.co.uk. And I'll more than happily have that conversation. We'll sort that out. Okay. Is there any other questions? Anything else I can help you guys with? So I'm just trying to give you a minute to be able to do this and ask you a question. I've got it, but others won't. Okay, yes. So to give you a bit of an example, so obviously you guys have seen our website, trustbricks.co.uk. To give you an example of what a white label looks like, go to baileysourcing.co.uk. What you'll see is an example white label. So this is one of our white label partners, ironically, long-term friends, mentorship clients, worked with us for a long time, bought a lot of properties through us and with us, and in partnership or whatever else. baileysourcing.co.uk, so BAILEY sourcing.co.uk. You can see their site and you'll see how it mirrors our site, and you'll see very quickly how white label works. Okay. And I'll have a much deeper and much more in-depth conversation with you guys as we speak. But no, amazing. Thank you very much, Tony, for that prompt as well. And I see, okay, so we've got some Q&As come through. Okay, perfect. Are you able to joint venture opportunities with yourself? And if yes, what projects or JVs have you done? Yes, so you can JV with us. So it kind of depends on how you want to operate. So to give you a flavor, we never bring money to deals. We always typically bring the deal, the experience, the value, the knowledge, the team, and we essentially make it a much more attractive and effective deal as part of doing that. We've done a lot of JVs, so commercial developments, turning things into HMOs, blocks of apartments, standard flips, HMOs. So we've done a lot of JVs over the years. Matter of fact, part of how I built my portfolio was in joint venture initially with a guy called Taro, and that's essentially how we operated. So I brought the deals, the knowledge, the insights, etc. He brought a lot of the capital. That's how we built a large portfolio together. So hopefully that sort of gives you some insight. Really, really good question there, by the way. Hopefully that sort of answers your question. And thank you, anonymous attendee. It's interesting you come through as an anonymous attendee, which is always an interesting one. So hopefully that also gives you the examples you just requested as well. But thank you very much. Really good question. Any other questions at all, guys, before I love and leave you and let you get on with your evening? We've done, geez, like an hour and 20 minutes on this webinar. I tend to try and keep them within an hour, but as you guys can tell, I'm very passionate about the subject. I legitimately love it. I think it's one of my favorite topics to discuss is, how we can assist people and be able to make more money. Okay, so we got in chat as well. I want to know how to flip properties. My pleasure there. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate the kind words as well, guys, in the chat. And then you want to know how to flip properties. Anna, no problem whatsoever. So do reach out to me. I'm more than happy to grab a cup of coffee with you. Obviously, we've spoken a lot before, so do reach out to me. Contact trustbricks.co.uk. We'll jump on a call. We'll meet for coffee or something, and I'll walk you through it. It's pretty straightforward. But no, I'm more than happy to help you understand and know how to flip properties. And if there's anything else any of you guys want to know, do reach out. I'm more than happy to assist. And my pleasure, anonymous attendee. Legitimately, no problem whatsoever. Okay, guys, I will love and leave you at that point. If there is any other questions and I have missed it, then please do reach out to me personally or drop it on the chat or anything like that, and I'm more than happy to assist. But in the meantime, I just want to say thank you, each and every single one of you, for essentially spending your evening with me. I hope you've taken a lot of value, had a lot of good times. And if there's anything else you need from me, please do reach out. But thank you very much. Have a great evening, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.